Welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Hope everybody's doing fantastic. Please subscribe to this channel and also subscribe to the WQAM YouTube page, 560 WQAM. It is linked there in the description. You can watch Tobin and Leroy every single weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And, of course, Game Day Uncensored, our Dolphins pregame action every single game day, 4 hours before kickoff. A pregame that's longer than the game, dude. So check that on out. And appreciate everybody who has been supporting us. We'll be at 9 a.m. this week. So I want to I just, sometimes, Leroy will call me. He says, sometimes you're just like a bass, dude. Like you get hooked on something and I can't help myself, It just is what it is. And there was this article that came out on CBS Sports, right? Written by Bill Reiter, who... NBA guy, used to cover the Heat, I think back in LeBron's first season. OG Heat hater. He was just whizzed on LeBron the entire time that he was down here. So this is, so he has some things to write about the Miami Heat. And his article is written and it says, Eastern Conference has Bucks Celtics fighting for the throne amid fears that Heat and 76ers will slip. Well, first of all, the headline's hilarious because it's like fears. You guys have been talking about the slip now for years. And I mean, if anybody's going to be fearful of that, I think if there's really a fear, it's a fear that they don't slip. They're probably praying that they slip and that it finally happens. But, they're talking about the this was hilarious because here's what Bill Reiter wrote. He said, there's real jealousy in what the Bucks and Celtics pulled off, best epitomized in the Miami media's manic anger over the Heat not landing Lillard, and a real fear in both Miami and Philly that falling behind too far can have far-reaching consequences. Quote, I think it is closed for Philly, one NBA front office source told CBS Sports. So there should be that fear. And I'm not a believer in Miami either. So I think that they're cooked. But I don't think they have that fear because I'm not sure that they're honest about themselves. Miami certainly disagrees with an assessment that despite missing out on Lillard and watching players Max Strus and Gabe Vincent head out the door after a magical run to the NBA Finals, the Heat always feel like they're underestimated and that they're uniquely positioned to successfully transition from a marathon regular season to a different reality in postseason basketball. And then he goes into last year. So... here's the thing that I find funny about this, right? First of all, of course, you have some national yahoos who's out there and being like, the Miami media was so angry. I love the fact that the Miami media has become this thing that, like, all of a sudden everybody's paying attention to because Lord knows for years, all we hear about is Philly media, Boston media, New York media, the Northeast bias that's out there. Like, you would think that these Miami players that Miami actually would get a little bit of respect and would get a little bit of the love in some of these post-season awards. See Bam Adebayo, who in these polls that come out, I know that wasn't media, that was GMs, but even still, he's never been first team all defense, which is, if you think about that, crazy. And to hear front office executives saying Miami's not being honest with themselves, well, hold on there, jabroni. Okay, let's just take a look and take a step back at some things. You can say whatever you want about the deals they missed out on. And you guys can all of a sudden act like losing Gabe Vincent and losing Max Strus is this unfixable thing for the Heat. Okay, if they would have lost Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler, obviously they would have been screwed. Even if Tyler Hero wasn't able to play this year, holy bleep, that would be a problem for Miami. But I continue to find hilarious that the Miami Heat losing their starting backcourt in the postseason. I get you. But a backcourt that everybody scoffed at coming into the postseason, nobody looked at as this threat to the first and second seeds in the Eastern Conference. Even the New York Knicks, everybody was like, even series. So why wouldn't the Heat have this idea like, they're going to disagree with the idea that you're cooked? As far as the jealousy, yeah, of course the Heat fan is jealous. Of course the Bucks the Heat is jealous that the Milwaukee Bucks seem to foist one and get Damian Lillard from them for Drew Holiday, this who ended up getting flipped to Boston. Yeah, why wouldn't they be pissed? And I think the Heat fans should be pissed that happened, that, their two biggest rivals got in on this deal that should have been a layup. There was I hate to call it a report, but there was a theory thrown out on Fox Sports Radio that Portland was supposedly ready to give Damian Lillard to the Heat or deal with Damian Lillard to the Heat until Aaron Goodwin came out and overplayed his hand. And I do believe there is something to the idea that Miami got a little too fat and sassy, got a little bit of aggressiveness. I'm not saying Miami doesn't have any deal in embarrassing Joe Cronin or him and Aaron Goodwin didn't overplay something here that allowed all communication to be shut off. Damian Lillard talked about this week. He actually gave voice as a Milwaukee Buck saying, look, it's no secret where I wanted to go, and I thought I was going to be there, and I was hoping I was going to be there, which is pretty crazy now that you think that he's still in Milwaukee. He's still talking about how much he wanted to be in Miami. And I would say that if there is a bigger threat to Miami, and if there is a team that you have to always, of course it's the Bucks. The Bucks replacing Drew Holiday with Damian Lillard is different. But I think you look at the dynamics it can have offensively at the end of games with Giannis and Damian Lillard. I think it's super scary. I'm not gonna lie about that. I think that's just what the doctor ordered for their team. I mean, you could sit here and be like, oh, they got worse defensively, dude. I mean, like, they have a bunch of they do have two trees there in the back that are going to protect that rim, that are going to be always a challenge to get into the paint and score against. That's always going to be the case. Their best defender got cooked in 5 games, and now he went to Boston. Boston, to me, is a different story, where it's like everybody wants to pencil them in because they think Jason Tatum is God's gift to basketball. But I'm looking at their changes, and I'm like, you sure? You sure are you sure that that's not the team that actually has the issues and that may have the defensive issues and may have the health issues and may have the bit of the overrated, a little bit of a shell shock because they're always getting killed? We know their coach is a boob. I mean, the way he came out on JJ Redick's podcast, he goes, well, it was a blessing in disguise. We weren't the 1 seed because we would have lost to the 8 seed. And he's like, you did lose to the 8 seed, dude. So I just find a lot of this stuff hilarious. And the other thing is, like, let's look at the Miami Heat, right? Why they're not being honest with themselves. You look right now at, let's just take a little ranky ranks, okay? Let's use the ESPN top 100, even though it's off, and I think Jimmy Butler's behind some people on this rankings that he should not, if we're going to be honest about what this guy is when it actually matters. Some of the players that he's behind and some of the older players that still get the pedigree nod above him, like, it's, like Jimmy versus Devin Booker is a really interesting case on why Devin gets the leap over him. Seems a bit much to me. I mean, with Phoenix's resume over the last few years in comparison to Jimmy's, I find that one a little bit weird. Tatum, I always am going to find it. I know Tatum is going to put up regular season better numbers than Jimmy all the time, but these guys have had head-to-head matchups in 3 playoffs, and this guy, you would think Jason Tatum swept Jimmy every time. It's the way they rank him so many spots ahead. But like, looking at this list, right? If you look at the top 20, I think I got this calculation right, but just to make sure, if we're going to look at the teams that have 2 top 20 players, okay? Boston with Tatum and Brown, nobody would scoff at their contention, wouldn't say that they're lying to themselves. Everybody thinks Boston's always a contender. Milwaukee with Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, Giannis is number 1 in this list, which I also find a little bit weird. How is the guy who got beaten 5, how does he get the ranking above Nikola Jokic? That seems a little bit stupid to me, but you know what? Failure doesn't exist. There's only steps to success, apparently, for Giannis. Then you have a bunch of Western Conference teams. You have Phoenix with Katie and Devin. You have Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, and Cat was right at the bottom of the top 20. You have the Lakers, 9 and 10 on this list were AD and LeBron. You have Denver. Of course, you have Jokic. You have Murray. And the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. And I would say, out of all these teams, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams that have 2 top 20 players. 2 top 20 players. Not another one of these teams would somebody look at and say that team is lying to themselves about their window. Lying to themselves, dude. And I know this article also goes in and it says, oh, Philadelphia, they're also in that conversation. Well, Philadelphia, dude, has not gotten to an Eastern Conference Finals with Joel Embiid. I'm sorry. Like, they haven't. You guys can sit here and you can continue to prop them up. And if you want to talk about their window closing with the disarray that they have with James Harden and all that stuff, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense because their ceiling so far has been knocked out in the second round. And it's been by various teams. The Heat, the Hawks, the Celtics. They get knocked out by everybody. The Bucks. Okay, Bucks were the 1 seed last year. They had Damian Lillard. Why would you say they lied to themselves? Boston, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals basically every year. Sometimes they beat Miami once. Sometimes they lose to Miami twice. So put them there. No one's saying they're lying to themselves. But the Heat, they lose Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, and you're saying they're lying to themselves, which to me is crazy that you're saying, oh, they're cooked. Not even just that, hey, I don't know. But to say a front office exec have the balls to say cooked, lying to themselves is crazy to me. Because if I look at Boston, no one's saying that about Boston. No one's saying that about Denver. You know no one's saying that about the Lakers. You know no one's saying that about the Bucks. You know no one's saying that about Phoenix. But the only teams you can look at this top 20 that has 2 top 20 players, Minnesota, which is in a different place because they're kind of up and coming, but they didn't have Karl-Anthony Towns a lot last year, and everybody was like, they got Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns, and Anthony Edwards looks like it was a bright rising star. I think if anybody was going to if you could look at anybody and say, hey, who's going to be the next Memphis? Who's going to do that? Maybe Minnesota, because Anthony Edwards might be that good. But no one's looking at them saying, oh, they're cooked, they're lying to themselves, even though they give up a gazillion first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. Crazy talk. But the only team that has 2 top 20 players, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, who have been to 3 Eastern Conference Finals, who have been to 2 NBA Finals, but are still looked upon as like, just not impressed with anybody. But with 2 top 20 players getting their second leading scorer healthy for the regular season and hopefully for playoffs, that to me is looked upon. Somehow that's worse than not having Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. Am I taking crazy pills? I don't know what this season's going to end up being, right? I think this is going to be a fun year. I'm looking forward to it. Even tonight, where they're not playing anybody, strangely. I don't understand what's going on here. The Heat, they have basically left, I think the only regular here's what they said. Thursday, Jimmy Butler, Caleb Martin, Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez, Jay Rich, not traveling. Bam, Tyler, Kevin Love, Kyle Lowry, also not traveling, just to let people get some minutes. Apparently, Nikola Jovic, by the way, doing better with his knee injury. It was a bruise, so hopefully he'll be okay. Knee contusions, though. He's said he's feeling better. Doesn't appear to be something serious, but whatever it will take, it will take. He'll be fine. So you have that. And then Jovic did say, though, he says, I wouldn't say that I'm mad. I'm just tired of this. I don't want to miss games because of something like this. So he is hopeful that he can get back out there because, yeah, the guy wants to get some minutes. We didn't really get to see him in that party that was the first preseason game. And then, of course, Jovic with Jaquez. Jaquez also got banged up in Summer League and now is dealing with something that happened in practice. But either way, even tonight, I'm looking excited because, yeah, these things matter. You look at Cole Swider, you're like, oh, he did it again. They found another one. And you look at what Haywood Highsmith will probably turn into this year. Oh, there's the next guy that he didn't think about it. Caleb Martin, who was arguably as good, if not better than Jimmy Butler in the Eastern Conference Finals. Oh, yeah, they still have him? Nah, who cares? The Heat are cooked because they're cooked, right? Who cares that they have Caleb Martin? Why can that guy get better? You know? It's wild to me, dude. The dismissal to me is insane. That you look at it and you're just like, not going to happen. You know, I'll give you the Bucks. I'll give you, and I get it. Why you guys you'll stay obsessed with the Celtics? forever. Forever. But to say the Heat are lying to themselves, you guys laugh at them every year. Why shouldn't they lie to themselves? Dum-dums?